so warm. Can you know how I feel? When you're you understand, and that's the reason that I'm asking. Yeah, that's the reason that I want to know. Yeah, that's the reason that I'm asking. Yeah, that's the reason that throw away everything you live for. The way you shake and sway, and it's the passion that you bring. That's the reason that I'm asking. Hey, that's the reason that I want to know. That's the reason that I'm asking. Yeah, that's the reason that I'm lost. Said a chain passed down through the air, and in him if we just face the pain and the fear. Did you love this one? There's love before you. When you lose your hands, and it's the way you understand. That's the reason that I'm asking. Hey, that's the reason that I want to know. Hey, that's the reason that I'm asking. Hey, that's the reason that la 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 la. La 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 That's the reason I'm masking. It's alright. The time, the patience, let go. Take it slow. No or hiding or disguising truths like soul. Every day something hits me oh so cold. Sitting by myself, those pieces that I know. It's okay. Had a bad is the blues and breaking our songs. I'll be gone. It's fine while you're drowning and it's you. It's something that's me off the road. I'm just sitting by myself. I know. The ring at home. Every day something hits me oh so cold. I'll be sitting by myself, no excuses that I know. Years ago, SARS, we killed 8,000 people in the world, and then we had the novel idea of SARS, COVID-2, coronavirus pandemic, and the thing is, those viruses are they also include the common cold. And considering, well, first of all, COVID-19 was intentional lab-created bioterrorism. Bill Gates paid $55 million to buy into BioNTech, a small German pharmaceutical company that had never produced one product. However, the United States government, for about 10 years, funded them, grants, things like that. But so right before the pandemic started, I was certainly warned to keep my mouth shut about it, or we would be killed. And they murdered Emma with rat poison the day before Thanksgiving, and told me that if I wanted to eat, to keep my mouth shut. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? I ain't never seen nobody eat with their mouth shut. And that includes all of you too. That's certainly don't answer. And even the fact is, wow, it worked even better than you thought, right? Because a lot of you just got into it for the vaccine money. And so BioNTech, Isn't that ironic? Don't you think that BioNTech, this little German pharmaceutical company, that right before the pandemic, Bill Gates sunk $55 million into, and in less than 2 years, he got a return of $550 million because they partnered with the huge pharma, Pfizer USA, and one of the three. Actually, two of them they were used mostly, but that one of the three companies in the United States to create COVID-19 vaccine with the help of a small United States taxpayer-funded German pharmaceutical company. And with with them adding these parasitic mites to it that were shipped all over the country and intentional COVID-19 bioterrorism, super spreader, genocide, it worked a lot better than everybody. It worked a lot better than they planned, right? And now we have over 1 million dead in the United States. The United States is supposedly the richest, most technologically and medically advanced country in the world. And if you look at the numbers, that there's statistically they're so disproportionate as far as the numbers of deaths per 100,000, number of deaths per capita. Before the feds went in and started hacking all the results to make to cover it up, the United States had, I believe, 266 deaths per 100,000. And they said it came from China, but China only had 0.9, not even one death per 100,000 in China, and certainly wasn't because of immunity to the SARS virus that they had 10 years ago. So, it was back, it was back in March. I got the first phone call of my life ever from China, from Shanghai, China, and it was a warning that that there was going to be an outbreak in Shanghai, and lo and behold, about 2 months later, there was a major outbreak of COVID-19 in Shanghai, and part of that was, once I started busting them on the numbers that were just so obvious that they went back to China and apparently killed a bunch of people over there to cover it up. But now with over 6 million innocent human beings on this planet dead because of a bunch of a lot of them were just plain money grubbing human parasites, and they wanted to make all that good government pork as appropriations of the United States taxpayer dollars, and with the BlackRock in the White House and the cabinet, then they've got quite the vaccine profits coming in, and then a lot of the other ones, there was a terrorist agenda, and who hates Americans? Well, the Taliban, Al Qaeda, the Bin Ladens, and and certainly I'm not going to get into the fact that Barack Obama did not send maybe six SEALs in there to kill Osama bin Laden. It's bullshit, and certainly he's going to have to answer for it. And they're going to bring those Navy 6 SEALs in and have them tested. I guess the only thing that I can see good about all the DARPA neurotechnology program that they started in 1974, even though once I busted them on that, they changed the website completely too. But they started in 1974 when they took MK Ultra over from the CIA, and one of the reasons that whether I get to court or not, and I don't have to testify unless I don't want, unless I want to, or somebody calls me, for a defense witness, but because of the fact that I'm monitored constantly, my brainwaves, my EEGs, this real fancy test, they're absolutely accurate, not like a polygraph where maybe might be able to throw that out. No, not EEGs, and that's what they're going to do with those 96 SEALs. And if they lie, then they're going to be guilty of treason, and they won't be as lucky as Osama bin Laden. But the thing is with this, they've altered the water. Buford Jasper water and sewer altered the water and put additives in it in order to perpetuate and the COVID-19 bioterrorism. And now they've covered it up several times while the terrorism was going on. For some reason, at the height of it, my water dried much too fast
which was very strange, I thought. And now they put grease in it. I thought, well, that kind of reminds me of that, all that greasy Saudi Arabian bin Laden money that's why Osama bin Laden's still walking around. That big, pretty presidential Rolex watch that George Bush had, it certainly kept during his time. I don't think it ever did work. And good evidence of that is Tora Bora, where Osama bin Laden fled in Afghanistan in Tora Bora. Well, 6 miles wide, 6 miles long, and the United States military and President Bush would not allow United States troops to go in there because they said they wanted to have a small footprint. And so the CIA went over there. I think they had 19 CIA operatives. Yes, Addie. This is a CIA undercover agent. This is Addie Mae Jenkins. I talked to Ms. Jenkins the other day at the school board. Supposedly, Dr. Frank Rodriguez, assistant or secretary or whatever, and she said her name was Ms. Jenkins. And of course, that goes way back. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but Addie Mae Jenkins, it has a lot to do with the rap. She had the vaccines. She's allergic to all vaccines. And she breaks out in huge, quarter size, bigger, bubble wrap looking whelps from anaphylaxis, which takes vaccines. So, now, in an attempt to make absolutely sure that these parasitic mites don't start breeding again in my aquariums, they have, Jasper and Moore have put a greasy additive into the water. I called them about it, and it cleared up, but it's felt greasy again the past few days. And of course, what do you do with if you have standing water? What do you do with the if you put a little grease in it? Then those eggs can't hatch out, and they'll smother. The parasites will smother. So it's kind of appropriate with everybody that is smothered, and they're just filling up from COVID-19, and that we've lost, so that people can make money, and so that the other terrorists could further this terrorist agenda. It certainly seems like with we let the Taliban grow opium and we smuggled heroin for 20 years, the whole time we were over there during Operation Enduring Freedom. That would have been the first thing we should have done, is to remove their income. And now they're over 75,000 strong, and it probably has a lot to do with with why the Pentagon and Joe Biden left them weapons and aircraft when we left Afghanistan after 20 years. We lost 3,000 American troops over there, and I believe over 20,000 were injured. We spent hardworking taxpayer money, an average of $300 million a day for 20 years. And we still couldn't train those Afghanistan troops to protect and defend their own country. Well, we were babysitting the Taliban to try to make it look like this was something close to Operation Enduring Freedom. And stop, Addie. Addie has a neural implant that they started. Stop. They started making neural implants with implanting dogs with them in 1963. The CIA did, and she's an undercover CIA canine spy. And I imagine once this becomes public knowledge, we're going to find out that there are a lot of cats and dogs in this country. Anybody that's left their dog overnight to be spayed or whatever at the vet's office, we're going to find a lot of pets that have these CIA neural implants. 2, we train troops at Paris Island, the Marine Corps camp here for 10 weeks for combat training. 10 weeks for basic combat training. We can train the Taliban troops in 20 years. So even though these troops, during 20 years of training, could not learn, I mean, you said 20 years, well, that's a child is born and grows up to adulthood in 20 years. But in 20 years, we cannot teach the Afghan military to protect and defend their own country. And they couldn't do it even when we had their backs, when the United States military and NATO had their backs. And before we pulled out all of our troops out of Afghanistan, of course, you had the little Afghanistan children running us out the plane saying, please don't leave us, please don't leave us, don't, begging and begging and begging for us not to leave them. And their parents, were doing the same thing. And what it has to do now with, all the Afghan military, the troops that really did try, they're hiding out in their houses because the Taliban's trying to kill, they're retaliating against them, trying to kill them all. The Taliban already had control of all major cities in Afghanistan before we pulled out. And the Afghan army could not protect and defend themselves when we had their backs. But we left weapons and aircraft supposedly for the Afghan army. It's bullshit. They'd have been much better off with money and food, or and relocating them as refugees would have been a very, very, very sound, diplomatic, kind, human rights supporting mission for us, rather than the Taliban having us all over Saudi Arabia and Bin Laden oil barrel. And that's why they did that. And I believe that part of the COVID-19 bioterrorism are these radical Islamic groups like the Taliban and Al Qaeda. And and they couldn't do anything about it. The United States government, what were they going to be responsible for their actions? Responsible for their crimes? No. So that's the take on Afghanistan, and then now we've got the Ukraine. Many months ago, if Joe Biden had used just a little diplomacy, the Ukraine people would not have liked it. But he might have been able to work a deal out where, hey, well, I know this land was yours at one point, and we don't really want a nuclear conflict with Russia. So we could have relocated as refugees rather than letting all of those people be slaughtered. And I heard, I don't know how you say it, Bachelet, make an announcement where they started letting refugees in the country. And Biden said, well, we're going to start letting these refugees in, but only the ones that have families in the United States, which meant that the refugees would not be confined to refugee camps or designated refugee areas. They'd be dispersed throughout the country with their families. But then he quickly went on to say, well, they have a really resistant, he said, vaccine resistant. Oh, yes, he did. He said vaccine resistant TB in the Ukraine. Well, I imagine that probably all TB is vaccine resistant at this point. We haven't used vaccine. The last vaccine that they made for TB was over 100 years ago. So I have a feeling that, if this doesn't come to a screeching halt very shortly, and the United Nations Office of High Commissioner of Human Rights and the World Health Organization in Geneva, Switzerland, if they don't come on and intervene now, I believe we're going to get into another round of bioterrorism, possibly with tuberculosis from these Ukraine people. And that would be, it's completely preventable. They have TB time tests and PPDs that they can get these people before they disperse them into the country. And I think that's going to be the next United States federal government misappropriations of federal tax dollars, taxpayer dollars. Another gravy train like they have with the COVID-19 vaccines. I'm going to say this last. It's late. Ivermectin is a cattle and swine insecticide. They also use it as an ingredient in some pet products, but it's an anti-parasitic agent, and ivermectin has no antiviral properties whatsoever. The reason that people were advised to take ivermectin at the livestock dosage of 0.1 cc for 11 pounds. That's interesting. For 11 pounds, like 11 crimes against humanity, including genocide, was to kill these parasitic mites that they super spread throughout the country. Now it's left to be seen, and we need to go ahead and get. Well, Dr. Bachelet, you're an epidemiologist, and with special interest in maternal child, as a pediatrician. We need to go ahead and get qualified people in here, because I'm not that qualified. I've kind of had to learn on, as I went along. But with these parasitic mites, the reason that they told them to take the ivermectin is because bioterrorism worked much better than they planned. From their perspective, it was highly effective, and they wanted to go ahead. Well, these parasitic mites that were shipped throughout the country, the United States Postal Service priority mail in boxes. I don't know, I really don't know a lot about, the antigens and the antibodies, things like that, but I know that, from a mosquito bite, that would lower your immunity and make people more susceptible to Zika virus. And so that was the thing with the ivermectin. But that parasitic mite, not quite microscopic, about the size of a grain of ground pepper. That parasitic mite would bite one person, but it would have to bite that one person in order to ingest the ivermectin that people were taking systemically. But that's the thing. And I believe they're going to tell people to go out and take cattle insecticide, rather than taking the responsibility, because how many millions of lives could have been saved if somebody had just spoken up a long time ago? And that's certainly one of the reasons why I've been hiding in my house, much like the Afghan soldiers for the past, 5 months now after the attempted murder with what had partly coronavirus that they attempted to murder me with very intentionally. I've been registered for 33 years. And they intentionally tried to murder me in Beaufort Memorial Hospital, but that has to do a lot with Luke too, because of Dr. Mercer mutilating his brain when he was 8 months old to implant him with a PCI neural implant. But I'm just asking now, Dr. Bachelet, please do not wait. Please don't wait any longer. I had obvious genetic chromosomal abnormalities occur in my my aquatic fish. Of course, fish are aquatic. In my fish and in my mystery snails, very obvious, visible anomalies from the offspring. Now, I'm sure probably Beaufort Jasper Water and Sewer has probably diverted my water away from the school that's less than 500 feet from my front door. But if the same anomalies could occur in human beings, we may not see those anomalies, wouldn't, until those high school students started having babies of their own. And in light of the Supreme Court and this Roe versus Wade overturn right now, there's nothing in there about chorionic villus sampling and other tests that that could determine if these babies are going to have profound genetic anomalies. It's something that must be addressed right away. And the more I try to reach out to people, the more I'm hacked, I'm wiretapped, I'm threatened. And, my son is threatened. They're pushing free heroin and cocaine on him. And I think meth in a school zone. And last night even I had to call Beaufort County Sheriff's Office, and I thought, you know what, they're just going to do the right thing this time. I just know it. Because he was psychotic. He's threatened suicide 4 times in the past 3 days, and clearly just gone, just about. And he's lost 40 pounds in the past year, and they pushed the step on him the whole time. Not because he is any threat to them whatsoever, because he's not mentally competent. Clayton he has cerebral palsy. He's never lived independently, and he's mentally ill because of all the crimes against humanity that have been committed against him by this crime ring. And but they're pushing it on him to retaliate against me, and also to retaliate against the fact that, from what I've been told, all this information, 10 years of monitoring and recordings from our BCI neural implants, as well as the audio and video, and then all the transmissions of the torture and just the terrible thoughts that unless you have. Well, still today, I don't know whether the thoughts that I have are mine or not, and I have to ask either Jeff or David a lot of times whether they are, and these other victims, they have 3 victims, they have no idea if it's their thought or not, and it's a very sadistic, sick thing to do. There's absolutely nothing redeeming about these implants. Joe Biden, back in December, he sent his BlackRock over into the Chinese market economy, first foreign investment, huge group, to go into China. But then several weeks after that, he made an announcement about China. He admonished China. I think he sanctioned a couple of ramen noodle companies or something. And he said that that China was the one that was kind of like blaming the COVID-19 on China too, which was bullshit and genocide. But he blamed he called these BCI neural implants. He confirmed that they are capable of sadistic remote mind control, and he called them crimes against humanity and threats to national security. However, the FDA has already granted Elon Musk approval to implant these devices in human beings. It's not enough for Elon to have remote control cars. He likes that idea of being able to remotely control people. But you have to understand, there's something very, Elon, he bought Twitter, and he's paying people to say how wonderful he is, because he feels that inadequate. So to be able to control people, and I imagine especially women, because I can't imagine that he's, with all that money, a lot of women are sellouts. I mean, look at Melania Trump, for instance. But so he's paying all these people, and so I'm sure he would like the idea of being able to remotely control, other human beings, much like the Pentagon has done with me for many years for, remote sexual assaults, and I call them Pentagon peeping toms. So so how is it that Joe Biden wants to blame China for this, and when Elon Musk has FDA approval to do that, it absolutely must be withdrawn instanter, immediately. This cannot happen. It absolutely cannot happen. What Elon Musk doesn't understand is the Pentagon is already trying to blame him for our BCI neural implants being hooked to his Neuralink satellites, but it's not going to work. It's bullshit, and I know it, and they know it. But Elon is, for whatever reason, he's just like a Jim Jones Pied Piper. He's feeding right into it. So and here's the thing with the everybody is attacking China. China this, China that. China, oh my God, and they're the new superpower. Chris Wray gets on the FBI site and just warns us of just how terrible China is. China hadn't been in any really, major kind of conflicts in 1979 when they invaded North Vietnam, after we had pretty much, we were back by then. But What about Russia? What about Russia? What are we doing? What is Joe Biden doing in Russia right now? We've got Vladimir Putin is threatening us with a nuclear conflict. That could be Armageddon. It could be the end of the world. And but we're going to worry about the number of warheads that China's going to have in 2030 between COVID-19 and if well, they don't go ahead and kick Trader Joe out of that White House, we're not going to be here in 2030. So that's the thing. Vladimir Putin knows all about this COVID-19 stuff too, and he knows what we know with Taliban. He knows that Osama bin Laden is not dead, and he knows that about what George Bush, how he fleeced the America. We got 4 presidents that are going to have to answer for this, and that's the reason why Joe Biden didn't do anything else than he did, because Russia, Vladimir Putin's got Biden and these dirty feds blackmail too. But NATO said that Ukraine asked to join NATO, and then Vladimir Putin put his foot down about it and said no, they couldn't. And that the Ukraine president, because he was afraid and intimidated, he backed off from NATO. The minute that happened, NATO should have said, yes, you come right on in, we got you. And that's what needs to happen right now as far as in the Ukraine. Money is not going to save the people of Ukraine. It's not. It's going to be another huge waste, like Afghanistan, and a huge waste of innocent human lives that deserve the world superpower to help them. That's part of what we do. We have the money, we have the troops, and we have NATO. If we tell Vladimir Putin that NATO is going to come over there and handle it, he'll fall back. He'll fall back, and that's what needs to happen. And here I am, Pollyanna, in the low country of South Carolina, and so clearly, that's just common sense. That is just common sense. But money is not going to save the people of the Ukraine, and he's doing that in another disgusting, despicable attempt to appease everybody, like we're doing something, but it's not going to work. Just like George Bush tried to appease the victims' families from 9/11, 2,996 innocent Americans dead. And so he sort of, I'm not watching. He goes out and does all this, but from what I've just said just then, it was treason. It was treason, and there's 2,996 people, families, and I believe all United States citizens that have been so betrayed, and so fleeced, and so lied to, and so tricked by these people that we should be able to hold to a high standard. And that our children should be able to look up to as role models, and it's just absolutely, completely the opposite. The opposite. They're the absolute scourge, toxic human parasites. Really small men with big hats that they don't deserve. I just got glitched. That's something that they do when I lose my train of thought, and it's not really fair because certainly it's not fair, right? But yeah, I was just thinking of something. But the fact is, these BCI neural implants. Well, they've used me for data mining for the technology industry for over 30 years. Easiest thing in the world to do is to interpret my thoughts. They know what I'm thinking before it comes out of my mouth. And whatever I was just thinking, obviously, was a real, was something worth saying, but something that they don't want me to say. And this physical torture that right now they're shocking me in my arm with repeated shocks over and over and over again, and it has to do with with me talking, with me given my own, my own testimony about everything, like I'm doing right now. Not necessarily saying I have to say, even go to court, but certainly I'm relaying, impact and crimes and my opinion on things. And also, where do you get vaccinated with COVID-19? So they've been doing that for a very long time. But you can see my wrist. It's deformed where they broke my wrist with a situation with my Jack Russell Terrier, Emma, terror wrist. And that was it was about 14, maybe 10. It was over 10 years ago that they broke my wrist to threaten me to never expose all the terroristic acts. But it's just gotten worse. And if we don't do something about it now, it's clear that, Merrick Garland is not. He's supposed to be the king of justice, and he is an embarrassment and a criminal. And we definitely need to we need the United Nations and the World Health Organization to intervene now. And George Bush, from everything that I've just said, well, you've got from George Bush to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden, he's done a complete 180 change of heart as far as feelings and his strong convictions towards the death penalty, even though for 30 years as a senator from Delaware, he was a firm proponent and supported the death penalty. In fact, wrote the Biden bill that passed in 1994 that brought up the capital offenses to 60, including nonviolent drug offenses. And here's the thing: we've got about 40-something people left on death row after Donald Trump shocked the hell out of all of us to try to get us all to lean more towards abolishing capital punishment by claiming it violates human rights. But at the same time, he had a super spreader event, COVID-19 super spreader event in that prison at the same time, and that certainly put an extra shock in it too for us. So Biden claims that he wants to abolish the federal death penalty, and George Bush refused to sign the Rome Statute, which is kind of it's a loophole because they did not want, these feds and these politicians, they didn't want any higher court to have the ability to step in and intervene and protect us and bring them to justice. That's why that was done. And to prove this, with the 40-something men, only men, 40-something men, and by the way, there are actually more white men on federal death row than black. But with that, he has not commuted. Joe Biden has not commuted one single federal death row inmates' sentences. He wants to abolish it so that before all of these feds and the Pentagon officials, including the Joint Chiefs of Staff and also Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and Merrick Garland, Alejandro Mayorkas, and a lot of these big feds that are involved in this, he wants to abolish it now. Well, Joe Biden, during the 4-year hiatus he took between being vice president and taking the White House, he made more money in 1 year. He made more money than he'd made in the past. Well, let me put it to you this way. I can't remember how many years it went back, but Joe Biden had never made over $1 million. Not once. And that year, I think it was 2016. I believe, yeah. 2016, 2017, I have to check my notes, but he made $11 million in that 1 year. And his money really came up during those it was the first time that he was out of political office since 1973. And his money really came up. And what happened? What happened? To make him completely change his mind about the death penalty. Joe Biden got paid off. He got paid off. He got bribed to change his opinion completely about capital punishment. Everyone wants to claim it's a violation of human rights. Capital punishment, the death penalty, protects and supports human rights. And in fact, it is the only thing that these high-level feds and politicians fear. It's the only thing. Because they figure as long as they have as long as they're breathing, they've got plenty of money, they've stashed at plenty of places, and all they have to do is find one more judge to bribe, one more prosecutor, one more jury. And I've seen it too many times. I've seen it too many goddamn times in too many different courts, too many different states, too many different levels of judges. There's always going to be someone that they can bribe. Always. And I'm not attacking all judges, but I've seen enough of them to know that, it will probably cost a lot of money for them to get off of a death penalty sentence, but they will do it, or they'll do it on appeal. And there's absolutely no reason for them to, with the preponderance, just absolute, beyond a shadow of a doubt, of their heinous guilt. We absolutely cannot abolish the death penalty. We can't. They've already killed over 6 million people. They deserve to die for that. And they deserve to die for what they've done to my Clayton and to my Erica for killing John Scott Anonymous after torturing him. And me too. They took 30 years in the prime of my life. They murdered Emma with rat poison. They killed my Chloe, my precious Chloe, and they teased me about it over and over again by playing that song by Elton John that's called Chloe that I used to sing to her. Little Min Pin, first small dog I ever had, and just absolutely loved her so much, more than any other dog I've ever had. And they killed her for punishing me and about protesting in Washington and about me testifying. So Chloe had one of the CIA MK Ultra dog implants too, and her death will not be in vain. It won't be, because Chloe is preserved, and after obviously the United Nations is going to have to come for us. Please come for us. Please don't wait. Don't wait. There's no doubt in my mind, with as outspoken and as hard as I'm fighting for our lives, they would have they would care one bit about flying a plane over and bombing us to kill me. So, please come and like I said, Chloe's death is not going to be in vain, and hers isn't. I have another song that I'm going to do, but I'm going to wait. It's called Trials and Tribulations, because from what I've been told by federal prosecutors, once they arrest Merrick Garland and put somebody decent as the Attorney General of the United States, some of these people are going to be tried in federal prosecutions, and others are going to answer to international tribunals. A song called Trials and Tribulations by Cracker, but I'll do that next time.